In today's episode number 2 of my Vintage Betty series, my 1971 Seiko Lord Matic and my Seiko Lord Marble from 1967 will be featured to highlight my top 2 reasons why I buy vintage watches. If this is your first time clocking in with a dapper wrist, my name is Jay, and y'all know what time it is. The first reason is their size. It took over a decade to realize that I prefer a watch 34 to 38 millimeters small, with a lug-to-lug length of 44 millimeters or less. But unfortunately, most watches being made today are at least 40 millimeters and up. And because I prefer a watch small enough not to look out of proportion on my 6¼ inch wrist, buying vintage was inevitable. And this 36,000 high beat Seiko Lord Marble is a great example of the ideal dimensions for me, because a watch this small will never overpower my slender wrists. But note how much presence the watch commands, because when the fit is right, the look will be too. And at its widest, the 5740-8000 Lord Marble measures just under 35 millimeters, with a lug-to-lug length of 41.4 millimeters. This watch has a 19 millimeter bandwidth, is 11.2 millimeters tall, with a 5.8 millimeter sized crown. The 23 jeweled 5740C manual wind movement does not hack, but it does vibrate 36,000 times per hour, making the second hand tick 10 times per second. Now how cool is that? But it ain't just about the right look a smaller vintage watch has to offer us, the thin-wristed. Its smaller size also contributes to the overall comfort on the wrist. And my 5606-5000 Lord Matic is a good example of the kind of comfort a smaller vintage watch has to offer. Not only will a vintage watch look better on smaller wrists, it will also weigh less, making it more comfortable and a pleasure to wear when compared to heavier modern watches. The factory correct stainless steel bracelet of the Lord Matic comes with hollow end links, folded links, and press clasp. As cheap and undesirable as this sounds, I ain't phased. I ain't even tripping about the fact that most vintage watches have acrylic crystals. These factors make them lighter, thus more comfortable to wear. It's so comfortable, I wear my vintage watches on bracelets loose, like bracelets. Let's take a quick minute to weigh my slick Zodiac Olympus and my groovy Hamilton Jazzmaster Viewmatic, the 37 millimeter version, just to compare. The Hamilton weighs in at 98 grams. The Olympus, 90 grams. And my Lord Matic, 68 grams, 67 grams. That's at least a 20-odd some gram difference. And although both Zodiac and Jazzmaster have aftermarket bracelets not meant for them, these bracelets come with hollow end links and pressed clasp. And I doubt that would be the case if these watches came with bracelets of their own, if y'all know what I mean. The weight disparity would be much larger if that were the case. The stainless steel matte black dial of the Lord Matic at its widest measures 31.5 millimeters. It has a 37.7 millimeter lug-to-lug length with a 20 millimeter bandwidth. The watch is 10 millimeters tall with a 4.8 millimeter sized crown. The 23 jeweled hacking and hand winding automatic movement has a BPH of 21,600. But let me tell you about this movement's flaw. The 5606 has a star-shaped gear to switch the day. And that plastic gear is prone to crack. So don't be surprised if your day starts tripping. But that's more than enough covering the benefits a smaller vintage watch has to offer us, the light-wristed. Let's now go into the second reason why I buy vintage watches. Their cool style. I'm surprised Seiko hasn't reissued this Lord Matic. I'm surprised that a micro brand or an Ali brand hasn't homaged this watch yet. When the design is right, it should last the test of time. And this rectangular Lord Matic will testify to that. How slick are the beveled bricks in the center of the bracelet? This watch is screaming to be reissued. Bevels all around, underneath. And I love the way, I mean, maybe it wasn't out of design and aesthetic choice. Maybe it's out of necessity of the times. But I love when watches incorporate their crystals as part of the aesthetic design of the watch. My fingerprints messing things up, y'all. How cool is the Lord Marble? I was about to call it the Lord Matic. Look at how sharp are these lines. Still, 1967. Underneath again. I mean, when it comes to Seikos, 1960s Seikos, specifically mid to late 60s, I'm all in, y'all. I am all in like Flynn. This sapphire see-through case back, I got off Etsy. Go on Etsy, and I think I've seen them on eBay too, so I'm not gonna have a link, y'all. I'm sorry. But you'll find it on Etsy. I'm digging this watch. I haven't even mentioned the linen dial. I mean, Seiko just has a way of, what did I call it earlier? I should have wrote it down. Of maximizing simplicity. Simplicity done elegantly. I'm a Seiko fanboy, y'all. Can you blame me?